Sports Scene, Hampton Road's premier interview show with Greg Bicaveras, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM.
Are you a Christian business owner or an aspiring Christian entrepreneur? Do you want to transform the marketplace in your community? Then it's time for you to discover B2B groups, small group Bible studies that meet regularly to study what the Word of God says about business and to encourage one another with God's powerful wisdom for our lives and businesses. To learn more about joining or starting a group, visit blessedtobless.net. That's blessed, the numeral 2, bless.net.
From Chesapeake, Virginia, the Lighthouse 100.1 presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic. Now here is Greg Bicaveras.
Sports Scene, midweek online, Saturday on the radio from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on 100.1 FM, 1010 a.m., TuneIn.com, type in WPMH in the search bar to listen on the radio Saturday at 10. Greg Bicaveras along with Joe Daniel right here on the Lighthouse. Glad you're with us. Sports Scene is an interview show. Also watch sports highlights on nnpstv.com. Tell your friends about gjbtv.com and click the YouTube link on the homepage for archived audio and video. Twitter @GregBic, and you can see the rest of my Twitter handles on gjbtv.com in the contact section. Thank you to our military. Guest lineup presented by Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville. Sponsors on gjbtv.com, marketplace sponsors, and Hampton Roads onlinemall.com. Phone line presented by Me Casita. Show is presented by hrsmhof.com. All-Star game coming up next month in D.C. Tides playing good baseball. Always great to go to the beach and the pool and try out some new restaurants. Great interviews, business segments, highlights, commentary, what teased me off. Thank you for making the habit to listen to Sports Scene weekly. And we love our regulars, newcomers, and tourists, and hope everybody's having a great summer so far. Stay tuned.
There's no doubt about it. There's no better feeling than being able to make someone's dream come true. Project 143 gives orphans the opportunity to leave their orphanage and visit an American host family. That could be your family. Each child's story and picture and more about hosting over Christmas or for a few weeks during the summer is available online at p143.org. There are 143 million orphans worldwide who need you. Consider hosting an orphan for a few weeks this year with Project 143. Find out more at p143.org.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicaveras.
All right, and welcome back to Sports Scene. I want to thank our good friends at Sakura Japanese Restaurant and Sushi Bar. Go by and see Jasmine and the wonderful staff. They deliver through orderup.com. Give them a call at 410-4577 in Chesapeake, serving delicious Japanese food. Well, a lot of you know that I interned at WCBS a long time ago in New York, and of course a legend in broadcasting at WFAN for several decades, and in broadcasting in general is Ed Coleman from WFAN, who's covered the Mets for so many years. Ed, welcome back.
Hi, Greg. How you doing?
Good, my friend. Happy summer to you. I guess it's not such a great summer for the Mets so far. Tell the fans here in the Virginia Beach area, home of David Wright, what has gone wrong. They started off so well.
Oh, where to begin? Injuries, you have to start there always because I think that's been the mantra at spring training for the Mets for a long time. Things can go well and things will be on track if we can avoid injuries, especially with an aging roster, but that hasn't happened this year. However, there have been a lot of wheels that have fallen off this bus already, and this is one of the more dire times in Mets history. I've been doing this a long time, and this is pretty bad right now, to say the least. But they do miss some big bats in their lineup. Yoenis Cespedes basically has not been here the entire year. Again, he had missed 50% of the games last year. He's missed a little over 50% of the games this year. Jay Bruce is hurt, big bet they signed and re-signed in the offseason, and his production was way off prior to that, with just 3 home runs and I think 16 RBIs in the time he did play. And a barren farm system has certainly not helped at all. The Mets do have some talent further down on the farm, but there is not much at the AAA level and not that much at the AA level either, and that's where you really have to reach down to get people when you have injuries and you have holes to fill, and they simply don't have those people to fill the holes. So it's been one thing after another, and it's all added up to a very messy season and a very bad baseball team right now.
Yeah, you mentioned that too. Only 3 years removed from the World Series. That's what's kind of hard to believe when you think about all this.
You're absolutely right. It's interesting when you think back to 2015, and it was, I guess, kind of a quick build that year. Things just went right for the Mets that year. Noah Syndergaard arrived, Steven Matz arrived. Those two certainly helped what was in place at that time. Yoenis Cespedes was acquired at the trading deadline, and had just a otherworldly, I guess is the way to say it, 6-week period where he just carried that team, and those things all added up to get them to the playoffs. They performed very well in the playoffs. Jacob deGrom's Game 5 in Los Angeles, one of the more memorable Met games of all times, and got them to the World Series, which they lost in 5 games, but no one expected them to get to the World Series. They did get there. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes the expectations go through the roof. You look at all that young pitching and say, well, everything will be okay. Well, Matt Harvey got hurt, Steven Matz got hurt, Zach Wheeler got hurt. Everybody's been hurt outside of, even Jacob deGrom got hurt for a while. So, sometimes that can put you in this position, rather quickly. I know a lot of people say, hey, what the heck went wrong when you were in the World Series in 2015 and in the playoffs, at least the wild card game the next year. I think the way that they got there in 2015 and how quickly they got there was a little bit of a fluke, and I think that kind of masks some of the problems that they have right now.
Talking to Ed Coleman from WFAN, the powerhouse in New York. Greg Pick of Eris at Greg Pick on Twitter. Glad you're with us right here on the radio right here. And you talk about injuries too. You mentioned Cespedes. It seems like his best years were with the A's. He's been very erratic at best. Big bat, of course, but unless you're playing every day in this summer grind, it really doesn't make a difference to compound with all the other injuries you mentioned.
Yeah, it's true. Listen, Cespedes, I mentioned the 50% mark, and he is, it's under 50% now. Since he has signed the 4-year, $110 million contract, you can't have the kind of the linchpin of your lineup. And again, even when Cespedes is not going well, I think other pitchers, other teams have to worry about him in that lineup. And I think he helps other people in the lineup too, just his presence. He's one of those guys. And not having him there obviously takes this lineup down not just one peg but a couple of pegs. And he hasn't been there. It's been a mystery this year. It's been very frustrating for Met fans to kind of listen to the somewhat daily updates on Cespedes, and he's getting close. He's in a good spot. He's in a good position. Well, if he was in that good a position, he would have been back by now. The other thing that's I think very frustrating with him is that there are other players, David Wright being one of them, who is still trying to get back on the field. And I think that, I guess the best way to put it is this: if I saw my team struggling and the way that they are right now, I think I would push a little bit harder to get back here. He seems, at least on the surface, to be taking his, just taking his time to get back here. I'm going to be 100% before I get back. I think there are other players who might look at it differently and say, I got to help my teammates out of this mess because he knows how important he is to this team. That's the other particular frustrating thing that has been going on with Cespedes, and that doesn't seem to change either.
Yeah, Cespedes is 32, Wright's 35, and you talk about Wright. The only thing I can compare it to as far as football is what Andrew Luck's going through, kind of a mysterious thing every year. But of course, Wright's been consistent, but that consistency was a long time ago.
Yep. I mean, listen, it's been, 2015 was the last time that, and David came back that year from injury, and that was really the last time that, he played fairly consistently, and that's 3 years ago. I don't know what lies ahead for David. He's giving it his best to get back here. They're certainly not looking at him as an answer. If he can get back, that's fine. I think he's going to be compromised throwing a little bit in just watching him, but he did hit in the cage yesterday for the first time, which was nice to see. That was on the field. There's still a long way to go with David Wright. There are rehab games. If he gets to that point, it's always been something that has shut him down, when he gets to a certain point in his rehabilitation. So I don't know whether he is going to make it back this year. I don't know whether at some point this year we'll, have a press conference and he'll say, well, I tried, but that's it. All you can do is watch and hope at this point in time that he can get back. But this is, he deserves it for what he's done for this franchise and how long he's been with them. He'll always be a spokesman for them. I'm sure that the organization will work out something and he'll remain with them in some capacity, even if it doesn't work out on the field. But it's been frustrating for him. It's been kind of frustrating to watch as well, but I think everyone wishes him the best.
This kind of reminds the older Mets fans of the 82 roster, when you had an aging George Foster, the late Rusty Staub, Ed Lynch, players like that. Kingman was still on the team, and they had all these bats, they had all this power, but it didn't evolve in the record. And the funny thing is, too, Ed, as bad as the Mets have played at 31 and 45, the Nationals have not played great, and the Phillies and Braves are kind of young. They're erratic. This could have been their division to the taking this year.
Oh, no question. Absolutely. I was talking to Daniel Murphy the other day down in Washington, who's really struggled since coming back. I know he had a big hit on Sunday night, to win a game against the Phillies, but he's had knee problems and was out a long time this year. And was just asking about his club, and it's been hard for them to fire and take off. Bryce Harper hasn't had a good year. They have pitching problems. Obviously, Strasburg is down. You're right. If things had gone right for the Mets and they had stayed healthy and everything had come together and you got what you expected out of the people that you signed, they'd be sitting pretty in this division. I would agree. I like where Philadelphia and Atlanta are, but they are young and they haven't been there before. And can they pull this off for an entire season? We'll see. But they played very well so far. You would still have to think that Washington is the odds-on favorite simply because they have the experience to get there. But it's a division that could have been the Mets, which is frustrating. And your analogy to going back to 82 is probably a good one. I'll bring it back to say 92, 93, and teams that just about the time I started covering them for the first time, and those were very bad years as well. Eddie Murray, Vince Coleman, etc. And it kind of, this tailspin kind of reminds you of that, where you kind of showed up every day and felt that this team had no chance to win. So they've got to snap out of it in some way, shape, or form. And it's been tough for Mickey Callaway, to say the least, as a first-year manager. New York has been tough on him, and it's been tough adjusting for him in New York too.
All right, we're going to come back with Ed, take a short break, come back, recap some of the first part of the interview, and talk for the remainder few minutes right here with Ed Coleman from WFAN. Stay tuned.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
The best guests appear here on Sports Scene. Now back to Greg in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. Our good friends at CP Shuckers, locals, traditional, and Shore Drive, Pacific Avenue. Delicious food, great appetizers, steak bites, sandwiches, burgers, all the games on TV. Matt, Mark, Chef Leon, all the crew. For more, go to cpshuckers.com, your summer headquarters in Virginia Beach. Back to Ed Coleman, who's worked at WFN for decades. More about his career in just a moment. But you mentioned Mickey Callaway. Him and the general manager have been in the news a lot in the New York Post, that's for sure.
Yes, they have. As a matter of fact, it seems like Sandy Alderson is a poster child for the New York Post these days.
Sure.
I don't know if Sandy is going to survive this. If it were my decision, he wouldn't, which presents a big problem to the Mets, because if they are going to break down this roster and possibly trade Noah Syndergaard, I don't think Jacob deGrom is going anywhere, and other players, who exactly does that? If Sandy Alderson is not going to come back, I think it's something the Mets have to think about right now, not after the season, because it could be very important for them exactly who is going to do this breaking down. Mickey Callaway has had a rocky start, to say the least. Actually, I shouldn't say rocky start, because the start was great, 11-1, and he was pushing every button right. Everything went right. People, for the most part, were healthy at that point in time, but it certainly has gone downhill rather quickly, to say the least. Mickey he's a smart baseball guy. I think it's very tough when you're a first-year manager in New York. There were some in the organization who did not want that. Not that they didn't want Callaway. They liked him, but they were very wary of the fact that he had never managed before, even though he had been a well-respected pitching coach in the game. And I think you're probably seeing some of the fruits of that right now. He's a very ordered guy. He was asked yesterday about, how do you get through this, and how do you maintain your sanity? And he said, well, I try to be even keel and be cool, calm, and collected all the time. Never show emotion. I'm not sure that's the best way to go at all times. I think in the long run and for the long haul, it is a good way to operate, but I'll just give you an example. The Pirates are in here, and Clint Hurdle, who I've known a long time, is a very fiery guy. His team has not played well this year. They've had a lot of injuries too, and they had lost 5 in a row coming in here. And I just happened to go in the locker room from the field, which is the back way, and I didn't know the locker room was closed, but it was. He was having a team meeting. And the PR guy stopped me, put his hand up on it, so I understood and turned around and went out. But you can hear Clint's voice very clearly, because he has a rather loud one, to say the least. And what I heard at the time was, even my sister thinks you guys are playing like bleep. That's as I exited the locker room. So obviously he was dressing down his team.
Yeah.
They played like it last night, okay? They played like they had heard and listened to what he said. I think it's okay for Mickey Callaway to do that with the Mets. Apparently he doesn't think that, and that's, I think, part of the problem of being a first-year manager is learning those things. Yes, you can be very ordered and go about your processes and routines. He's always talking about those things. If we keep doing what we're doing every day, we'll break out of this. Well, sometimes you just got to let it go. This is baseball. It's sometimes an emotional game. So,
sure.
Those are things that you learn over time, and that I think the first-year manager is having trouble with, and certainly has had trouble with thus far.
Well, as bad as it's been, 31-45, there's still 86 games. We're not at the All-Star break quite yet. That's next month in D.C.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah. Is there any chance this can get turned around? Because like we said, the division is not exactly, the Bronx Bombers either.
Yeah, I doubt it, Greg. That's just my sense. I don't see this. I don't see it being this bad the entire season, but it's pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
And this is a stretch where they had to deliver. They had when they came back from the road trip, the 10-game road trip, where they went 3-7. The 3 wins came in the middle. They lost the first 3, I think, and then they lost the first 4, then lost the final 3, and they had 3 wins in between. And you said, well, okay, they're home. They have 16 of 21. many of those against the Phillies and the Nationals, but they had some. The 5 away games were Miami and Toronto, not impossible. They had Tampa Bay coming in, but Tampa Bay just swept the Yankees and are playing pretty well. So maybe that doesn't make a difference at this point. But they had they certainly had a stretch where they could get themselves back into it and make up ground. Thus far, they're 0-4. They got swept by the Dodgers, and they've lost the first to Pittsburgh. So it doesn't look like this is going to turn around, and this is really the stretch where they have to do it, or they've got to, kind of gather themselves and figure out, okay, who we're going to send out of here and what exactly and what we're going to do and how we're going to rebuild this. So that's why I don't see it turning around. I think it will get better. It can't be this bad for this long, but I don't see them getting back into it.
Talking to Ed Coleman, of course, they got the Pirates, then at Miami, Toronto, then Tampa Bay after 4th of July. Let me ask you this. A lot of the Nationals have complained here recently about the Sunday night baseball game. It was late. It just got a rain delay and so forth. And, of course, they turned around and played Tampa Bay the next day. It still was the East Coast. Today they got a noon game as well. Is the Sunday night baseball game almost where years ago it was a big deal to be on it? Now it's more of an inconvenience, it seems like. But the Mets, regardless of how they're playing, they've been getting a lot of Fox games as well.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Sunday night baseball. I think, the baseball has tried this year to be a little bit better, making a lot of the getaway days day games, which will, help, I think, in the long run. And there are more days off this year, too, which also helps. However, I think there was an instance this year, I think it was the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken, who played Sunday night baseball in Chicago. They were home, but they had to go to Pittsburgh the next day and play a day game. So they got into Pittsburgh, I believe it was 5 or 6 in the morning, and had to play at 1 o'clock that afternoon. You can't have that. That can't happen. And the Yankees obviously put up a stink and got it overruled recently, where they had a double header the next day after Sunday night baseball, and they were taking off Sunday night baseball. Baseball has to do a much better job of scheduling and making sure that if you do have Sunday night baseball on a game the next day, that you'll be home. Other teams have Sunday night games and they have to fly to the West Coast and play the next night. It's a long enough season as it is, 162 games. I don't think it's a great calling card these days, to be honest, to be on there. I go crazy with some of the Fox games, and especially the mid-afternoon starts on Saturday. I think it just takes the whole day away, honestly. But that's me. Not a big fan of that, and maybe that'll change in the future.
I'm not that old, but if I had my way, the All-Star game would be Sunday at 1 o'clock. That will never happen. These night games, Ed, are not good for any generation. It's all about the West Coast. Nobody can stay up till midnight to watch a baseball game.
Listen, I agree, and I think you lose the audience that you're trying to get to. You're trying to attract a younger audience, another generation to get to get into this game, and it's obvious that their attention lies elsewhere and with other sports. So having it on at that time is never a good thing. And early in the season, I think there should be a lot more day games. I understand that goes against the tenet of TV, which is their partner, but at the same time, you could play in comfortable conditions or semi-comfortable conditions for the most part in April and early May if you played during the day instead of playing in 30-degree temperatures at night. But that's I don't know if that will ever change because TV does wag the tail, as they say.
It's a big issue. Leave us with what's going on at WFAN. Over 30 years now. Francesa's back. Always good to hear him back. But it's always evolving. And under Entercom, we have an Entercom affiliate down here as well. Talk about that for a second.
Well, it's been interesting. Entercom has quite a few sports stations. I'm originally from Boston, and they have 2 sports stations that go at each other up there. And do very well, the Sports Hub and WEEI as well. They own both of them. They have a lot of sports entities around the country, and they're very much into it. They're very much into getting rights for teams, and so I think that is a good thing. It's been pretty much a seamless transition as on the upper levels anyway in New York. It's been very interesting with Mike coming back. Nobody expected that, but he is back, and and he's going to be here for another 2 or 3 years at least, if not more. And I would suspect more at this time. We have another show as well, the CMB show, which took over for Mike and then got bumped to earlier in the day, and the midday show with Joe and Evan. So Boomer's got the morning. It's been a rather interesting time, different to say the least, and different era, I guess, but it's been pretty seamless thus far.
Ed, all the best. We'll talk to you again in the fall about the Giants and the Jets, and look forward to hearing about that. Continued travels, and all the best to you for the rest of the summer.
Greg, thanks a lot. Good talking to you.
Thank you. Ed Coleman right there, folks, from WFAN, one of the legends in the broadcasting business. I want to thank our good friends at Craft 17. Go by and see Jamie and Chris at 1706 Mediterranean Avenue in Virginia Beach. Great appetizers, Kraft chili, fried house pickles, the Wagyu burgers, great toppings, Carolina snap dogs, chicken sandwiches, salads, vegan burgers, house-cut fries, beer battered onion rings, and a great atmosphere right near the ocean front. Craft 17. Like them on Facebook.
If you're pregnant, then you know there's a lot to consider. Here are some tips. Eat nourishing food, stay active, get plenty of rest, and do all you can to minimize stress. Avoid smoking and alcohol. Learn your options for care before, during, and after the baby comes. Start planning for breastfeeding. It offers health benefits to you and your baby. It's best for you both if you give birth after 39 weeks of pregnancy. Learn more at childbirthconnection.org. This public service message is from the National Partnership for Women and Families, United Healthcare, and this station.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bickaveris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
All right, and welcome back to Sports Scene. I want to thank our good friends of the Twisted Crab in Hampton at the Peninsula Town Center. Go by and get some great seafood, excellent beverages, wonderful staff, and a most pleasing atmosphere. The Twisted Crab, open for lunch and dinner. Great place to socialize and visit. Take a break from the shopping. Go to the Twisted Crab in Hampton for some authentic seafood, great sides like potatoes and corn, shrimp. They've got it all right there at the Twisted Crab. A great place to eat. Elements for Personal Healing. The owner is Catherine Dress. We talk to her every summer. Catherine, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Tell us about your business. Of course, you were in education for a long time. How has the transition been? It's been probably a lot more free time for you and a little bit more controlling schedule, I'm sure.
Well, it is nice to be able to control my own schedule. I've been a speech pathologist for 40 years and have owned this business for 5 years. And the transition actually was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, because a lot of the work that I was doing before had to do with fascial release, oral motor release, working throughout the whole body in order to achieve good. A lot of what I worked on was feeding and swallowing then, and I still do. But bringing energy work into that, doing energy balancing, bringing holistic work in with that, and then I'm also working with craniosacral and fascial release now.
That's a great point, because during the course of the business day, we're putting our minds and bodies in all types of different directions. So by the time we get home and want to take the trash out or do minutia or little things, sometimes the day can sap all your energy where you really don't have anything left in the tank. So it's really mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, a lot of times we don't realize that we are allowing that sapping to occur. We need to kind of, as practitioners call it, zipping ourselves up, making sure our energy is good at the beginning of the day, that our focus is good, and that we're ready to take on whatever life brings that day, whatever little stresses bring that day, whether it be you're getting cut off in traffic, to the boss has given you a new deadline on something, or you've been trying to get that honey-do list done and just keep pushing and pushing yourself. And when we let go of the pushing and the resistance, life tends to flow a lot easier.
You're exactly right. You talk about that flow, and we brought up a very good point at the beginning of the interview. When you work for somebody, when you have a very limited lunch break, when you're stuck in traffic trying to get to work on time and then trying to get home, working for somebody, you're always trying to please either the management or the ownership. When you have your own business, it's totally, totally different from a psychological and almost that aha standpoint. It really is night and day.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of similarities with it, only you're trying to please yourself as the owner. So you're trying to be the good owner and the good employee at the same time. And, that just kind of goes back into look back in your childhood, people-pleasing issues and things, and always want to be the good kid and do your best. There's a big difference between doing your best and trying to be what you think everybody else wants you to be. And that's been really rough, and you can see that throughout, the whole country and the world right now, that we don't quite know who we are as people, and being able to get back and into ourselves and letting go of that stress. We can't compartmentalize things as well as what we thought we could, nor are we meant to be multitaskers trying to get 20 things done at once. Then you get a half-hearted effort that really wasn't going to work in the first place.
Talking about elements for personal healing, she's based in Yorktown, Catherine Dress, and I remember my dad said, just don't sit around and think about things. That's the worst thing. And then the neighbor would say the same thing when I was a kid. Nothing good happens just laying around all day, just letting your mind fester. And mental health is so important. We've seen, unfortunately, several suicides here from big famous celebrities, that you have to compartmentalize, like you said, and realize it's not that bad. Take a look at the water. Take a look at the sunshine. Life isn't that bad. It's really what you make out of it.
It really is. And if someone's going to do just something that's even the most minimum thing, get your body moving. Go take a walk every day, or do some stretching or some yoga or Tai Chi, or, a little bit of something. Do something different every day and get your body moving. So many of the organs in your body really require that we move in order to get blood flowing and cleanse and sending healthy blood back to the heart so then it can pump. Because everything in your body is connected to everything else.
Right.
And your muscles retain that memory, and the memory, can be anything from the last big workout I had to the last time I got angry, because you can feel that muscle tension, or even the last time I had something wonderful happen, whether it be at work or at home, and I'm relaxing into it. So when we let go of the control, the flow starts to come back.
You're exactly right, because during the course of the day, and you try to get through the day peacefully, then in the evening you try to kind of recap what happened during the day, and it really is your mind and body work together. You look at a sports analogy. I know you're a big fan of the Orioles. That's a lot of negative energy to be festering around a long baseball season. It's not like football, the NFL, where they only play 16 games. Baseball is 162 games. Life is 365 days a year. And when you're having a losing record or things don't go well in work, it can fester. And listen, I hate to use the Orioles as an example, but they're not going anywhere. And really, the only thing ahead of them is trying to get to the end of the season.
Well, and they've had a lot of injuries. And if you let that get to you and you take life personally, then you're the one who suffers for it. And there are a lot of professional sports players, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, soccer. A lot of them are getting energy work done now to not only retain and regain their focus, but to also be able to relax and be in that moment. Because if you're not right in that moment and you've got your thoughts, just flowing everywhere, you're not going to focus on that ball that's coming at you at 90 miles an hour. And I've got to hit here, I've got to hit here. How about we just let go and breathe deeply and then let ourselves flow in that moment? Sometimes it's easier said than done. I do have people who go, tell me about this, and what do you think about that? And I said, I try not to think because it just gets in my way.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I'm trying to be stupid about something. It just means that if I let myself go in my thoughts way too long, then that's all I'm doing. And it's like those little birdies that run over your head in circles, like on the cartoons, like old Bugs Bunny cartoons. And you do get in your own way.
Yeah, our question of the day presented by Buffalo Wild Wings to our producer earlier was, how do you deal with rejection? And you look at it. I mean, Sarah Sanders, a beautiful young lady who works for Donald Trump. I'm not saying Trump is good, bad, or ugly, but she had no right to be kicked out of a restaurant. That was rejection, and anybody should not be kicked out of anywhere unless they're causing havoc in an establishment. And then you look at Bourdain, like I mentioned, who traveled all over the world, ate at the best restaurants in the world, best places, and it shows you that your mental health, nobody really knows what goes on behind closed doors, but people deal with rejection daily. They deal with negative thoughts, and it's good to have some type of positive thing each day.
Well, when with that, I'm not going to get into politics or anything, because there's two sides to every story.
Sure.
We tend to forget both sides, and we start getting involved, in someone else's story. I understand where the servers were coming from. Several of them were were gay and were very much, insulted and affronted by the administration. I understand her part. She just wanted a good dinner. And the owner kind of got put in the middle and tried to make the best decision she could. And whether it was right or wrong, boy, that's between them. And what they're able to deal with, with all the parties, on both sides. And it's rough. And we're finding ourselves really coming to a head with resistance on both sides of that. And when we can sit down and actually just have good discussions, then we find out we're really not on opposite sides of the table. We have a lot more in common, with both sides. And maybe if we stop taking an us versus them and start saying, hey, there's a part of me and you, there's a part of you and me. We'll all get along a lot better, and we won't have people getting kicked out of restaurants or wanting to kick or even feeling kicked to the curb themselves.
I mean, everything goes viral.
It's a rough place to be. Getting back to the sports environment, you find players, taking managers and their moods personally, and getting into more fights and stuff. I would just watch the NHL, playoffs. I usually don't watch the hockey until they get to the playoffs anymore, because I'm just, I'm not into all the fighting and stuff and losing of teeth. I'd rather see the play. Let me see the play. Let me see what your skills are. And, they tend to take each other personally and get each other riled up. And it's like, is that a positive or a negative? It's on you. I don't know. I just know it's not good for me to watch, so I'm going to turn it to something else or just turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, recently two things that went viral in the video, talking to Catherine Dress for Elements for Personal Healing based on the Peninsula. One woman called a family out for barbecuing without a permit, and of course, another woman called out a young girl for not having a permit for selling bottled water. So it's amazing how we go about our day just looking for trouble, where really sometimes we can just look the other way for innocent kids or families that are doing nothing wrong. It's just what we put our minds and bodies to. We add stress like that.
Yes, we add stress to our own lives, and that's where you see all the anger. And anger generally comes from fear. So if we can kind of go back into ourselves and, yes, get the help in whatever way you can, whether it's, coming to a holistic session or going to a counselor or seeing your pastor or whatever, of being able to let go of those fears and understanding where they came from in the first place. Because where they generally manifest out, just like where pain manifests out in the body, isn't usually where it started. And getting down to that core cause, the root of it all, really does help us to let go of it all and to not take life personally and take other people personally.
Right, the anxiety, Catherine. There are people that can handle one-on-one situations, but when you tell them to get dressed up, to go to a social event, to go to a wedding reception, to sit next to strangers, to go to a board meeting, to deal with people after hours, there's typical anxieties that we all go through. One thing is to go to work, go to the grocery store, go to the post office, the bank, but other things are social events where it's more formal and you have no idea what you're walking into. I think that can also cause stress and anxiety.
Which means that it's on you to start with. Make sure you're completely balanced with your energies, and that you're strong enough not to take anybody else's stuff on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own journey to take, and I know that word's being kind of bandied about a lot of the fact of you're on a journey. I don't care if you call it a trip. I don't care if you call it a long walk. Whatever it is in your life you want to call it. But we're all on our put here for a reason. We may not always understand it right away, and those, and our life will change. Coming into social situations means you have to come out of yourself and actually take an interest in someone else. Start a conversation. Heaven knows there's enough stuff online now. If you Googled conversation starters, you'd be able to find some simple things. And when you take an interest in somebody else and kind of come out of your own worries and anxieties for those few minutes, you find yourself relaxing. And then you find yourself just opening up and really taking part in a positive kind of atmosphere. When every day comes, find something positive that's healing for yourself, whether it be from keeping a gratitude journal, as I said earlier, taking those walks, getting your body moving. Some people love to do mindfulness, exercises or meditation. I do them. They're wonderful. Other people go, oh my God, I can't do it right. No, there is no right or wrong. Being able to sit in some silence and just breathe, focus on your breathing and where that breath is going in the body is just wonderful. And it is relaxing, and you find your own tension decreasing, and you find yourself able to take on your day.
Leave us with how people can get a hold of you with your website and social media.
My website is elementsforpersonalhealing.com, and they're welcome to go there. And my email is personalhealing1@gmail.com, and my business phone is 757-598-2065.
Kathy Dress, thank you. Always a pleasure to hear your voice, and have a good rest of the summer, and hope to talk to you soon.
It's, mutual right back at you. Enjoy talking to you every year, and have a wonderful summer.
You too. Stay cool. Thanks for the great advice.
Virginia Beach, make it the summer to remember. Get ready for the Summer Lights Tour with Jeremy Camp.
You call me out.
Matthew West.
I'm going all
and Ren Collective. With special guest Corinne Hawthorne. July 19th, 7 p.m. at Rock Church in Virginia Beach. Tickets are on sale now online at summerlightstour.com. That's summerlightstour.com. The Summer Lights Tour, presented by Compassion International.
You are listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicaveras. Now, back to Greg. It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
Sports Scene Online on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Saturday on the radio, 10 to 11 on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM, 1010 AM, HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com, browse, shop, visit, bookmark it, GJBTV.com, HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com, HRSMHOF.com, and our good friends at Courtyard Hampton. Go by and see Mark and the wonderful staff at 1917 Coliseum Drive. Give them a call at 838-3300. Enjoy the pool, enjoy the bistro, spacious, great rooms to relax in, great place to catch up and recharge is the Courtyard Hampton. Our question today presented by Buffalo Wild Wings and Newport News to Joe Daniel, our esteemed producer. Joe Daniel, over the years and currently now, how have you dealt with rejection?
Wow, rejection. That's probably one of the worst feelings you can ever feel, being rejected. That's horrible. In the past, I guess middle school wasn't kind to me. And so I felt it then, and I just kind of, I don't know, you kind of mature and you kind of just see a bigger picture now and you move past that rejection. When I was younger, I studied or researched social dynamics, so like the interaction between men and women and all. And I would kind of teach guys and tell guys that you're going to get rejected. When you approach a girl, there's a good chance that she's just going to flat out reject you. You got to learn to move by that. And coming from a Christian perspective, a Christian principle, I learned from a preacher that I believe God uses rejection as a tool for our protection. And so the way that is more or less the way he phrased it is God uses rejection and it's his perfect plan for your protection or something like that. And I believe that. I believe God can use it. I know it doesn't fit within that 1 Corinthians idea of what love is, but I don't think that using rejection to protect us is something that's outside of him. I believe it's true.
I remember going to a dance when you're younger. You ask 50 girls to dance. 48 might say no, but there's one evolving girl that will say yes. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you kind of, in many aspects, it's a shotgun approach. You just kind of have to let it all out and then see what sticks.
Right. And of course, you can't take it personally because rejection can happen in business and personal, and you handle it different as a kid or an adult.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you have a bigger picture. When you're little, everything is so dramatic.
Yeah.
And so, but you see now it's just like, okay, well, if she wasn't into me, then it probably wouldn't have worked out.
Well, some
for very
adults
long.
like drama too as well.
Yeah.
All right, Panera, all items 100% clean. Go by and see Brian and the wonderful staff. They deliver catering, soups, sandwiches, salads, great summer treats like bagels, bread, smoothies, breakfast sandwiches, cookies, desserts, refreshing beverages, yum, yum, yum. PaneraBread.com, food as it should be. Give them a call at 483-3670. For more, go over to 6255 College Drive in Harborview and see their wonderful staff 7 days a week.
Sports and Imports, located at 1322 Transylvania Avenue in Chesapeake. Sports and Imports specializes in all European models without the European price. ASE certified and Bosch certified. Don't waste time and money guessing what the problem is. Sports and Imports can pinpoint the problem and fix it the first time. Make an appointment today. Financing is available. Visit sportsandimports.net or call 545-9394. Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bickaveris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
All right, welcome back to Sports Scene. I want to thank our good friends at Outback in Kempsville. Go by and see Mike and the staff. Spacious, nice dining area to stretch out. Great bar, lunch and dinner daily. Burgers, steaks, doesn't get any better than that during the summer. Soup, salads, appetizers, seafood, pasta, chicken, ribs. Right there at 1255 Fordham Drive. Give them a call at 523-4832. Open for lunch, dinner, late night. Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville. Tourists, you hear that right now. Our weekly segment, Norfolk Tides and the NorfolkTides.com. We have Ian Locke from the PR staff. Ian, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Homestand, let's talk about it.
Busy one. This is our longest homestand of the year. We're home all the way through July 3rd, so real busy homestand. We've got 3 fireworks nights. We had a Turn Back the Clock night. We got 2 day games, Star Wars night, Virginia Tech Hokie night. All sorts of fun stuff going on. So we're home, like I said, through Tuesday, July 3rd. And we've got fireworks on Friday the 29th, Friday the 30th, and then Tuesday, July 3rd to kick off the Independence Day celebration.
Absolutely. Do the players like the day games when they, or how does it work for you guys? Because you hear a lot. We talked to Ed Coleman from WPMH in our first segment about a lot of the major leaguers don't like playing those late night Sunday games on ESPN, then turn around and playing another game the next day. How is it for the minor leagues?
Yeah, it's one of those where I don't think the players like the day games until they're over. Then they have a night off, and that's very few and far between, especially at the minor league level. So, for example, we had on Sunday night we played in Louisville at 6 o'clock. We played a pretty quick game, about 2.5 hours, but we bust through the night from Louisville to Norfolk on Monday. It's about a 10-hour drive. The guys got here about 9:30, 10 a.m. in the morning, and we had a doubleheader at 5:05. Against Gwinnett. So we had a 10-hour bus trip through the night and a doubleheader that first day in. If we play a day game on Sunday, maybe you save 4 or 5 hours and guys get a little extra sleep. So, we have a day game this week at 12:05 on Wednesday. It's great for, a day baseball come out to Harbor Park. It's great. And then the players themselves will, 3, 4 o'clock when the game ends, they go home and they get a night to relax, watch some TV, go see a movie, just kind of get away from baseball for a little bit before they come right back up and play some more night games later in the week. What
has surprised you the most as we're getting to the midway point?
I think, surprise for me, the Orioles, we're an Orioles farm club, and, they've struggled a little bit. I think that the way they've played to start the year just kind of surprised a lot of people. I didn't think they were necessarily going to be World Series contenders, but the way they scuffled out of the gate, it was kind of shocking, especially considering the success they've had the last several years in the American League. But it'll be interesting to see what they do here next couple of weeks because trade deadline coming up in July, and they've got a lot of pieces that need to not need to be moved, but probably will be moved. Between Manny Machado and Brad Brock, Adam Jones, Zach Britton, guys that are all on the last year of their contract, and it should be interesting to see, where they end up because this is a very crucial couple weeks for the franchise going forward because, if you can get some prospects to kind of restock your farm system, maybe, you kind of put this year behind you and you go forward from there and maybe you hit the ground running for next year.
Yeah, I'll be seeing the Orioles take on a game on Fox July 14th. They're the showcase game on Fox, believe it or not. Fox usually does 3 games, but the Orioles are definitely one of them on Saturday, July the 14th. All right, let's have a little fun here. Every year we've talked to them when I worked at the game, and we've talked here sports highlights, sports scene with the staff of the Tides. It's changed over the years, but your core group has been pretty consistent. Let's talk about some of the behind the scenes. You mentioned all these promos and fireworks and Star Wars nights. It takes a village, and you guys definitely have a great staff.
Yeah, we've had a great staff. We have a veteran staff too. We've had a lot of guys and gals that have been here a long time. Heather McKeating, who has worked in our community relations department for a long time. she handles a lot of the community appearances with Riptide and Triton, our mascots. Going to schools, going to hospitals, bringing players to those places, Little League openings and the like. And she's actually out on the field right now conducting a Little League camp, helping with the kids and the players kind of learning the game of baseball. So she's been an integral part of the organization. And then, you mentioned the sales and the promotions. We have a sales staff led by Ben Giancola, who is our assistant general manager, him and Mike Watkins and Jonathan Mensink and John Roderson and our sales staff. They're the ones that come up with all the exciting different promotions throughout the year, from Star Wars Night and fireworks. And, we have, I mentioned Hokie Night this week. We have Tremaine, Terrell, and Trey Edmonds, the Edmonds brothers from Virginia Tech that are all in the NFL. Tremaine with Buffalo, Terrell with Pittsburgh, and Trey with New Orleans. They're all going to be here at Harbor Park on Thursday night for a 7:05 game, and fans can get pictures and sign autographs of them on the concourse. So, and that's something that Mike Watkins did a lot behind the scenes, dealing with Virginia Tech and setting that up to get those three guys in here. So, those guys work really hard. A lot of people think you just kind of show up and watch baseball and that's the game, but that stuff started in January, February when they're trying to get with agents and get with people in Virginia Tech to set this stuff up, and the end product will be hopefully a nice sunny night here this week.
How about the woman that answers the phone, the famous 622-2222 number? Of course, a lot of people now communicate by text and email, but you still get a lot of calls on that switchboard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Lisa Blocker, who's our receptionist, she's been here she's almost 10 years now, and Lisa is very knowledgeable, and it's one of those things where, too, she has the worst job in the park when it rains, because if it sprinkles at someone's house 10 hours before the game, they just assume the game's going to get rained out. So their first instinct is to call in and ask if that game, if tonight's game is still on as scheduled. And Lisa just with a smile on her face will answer the phone. Hey, the game's still on. What can I do for you? And then people will say, hey, is the game still on? So she has a tough job in the park, but deals with it great. And like I said, during rain delays and the like, she's got the worst job in the park because everyone wants to know if the game's going to be played, and she knows just as much as we do. So she'll pass along that info when she gets it. But it's definitely a tough job sometimes when it rains.
Talking to Ian Locke from the PR staff of the Norfolk Tides, Greg Picavaris at Greg Pick on Twitter, GREGBIC. Ian will give all his information in just a moment. We talked about the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in D.C. What about the AAA All-Star Game? I said last week, 20 years since it's been in Harbor Park. Where will it be this year?
It's going to be in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus Clippers, that's the AAA affiliate of the Cleveland Indians, where we'll be hosting it. That's from July 9th through the 11th. We actually should know this week which Tides will be representing the ball club out in Columbus. So we're hopeful to get at least a couple players out there. I know the league tends to have, just like the major leagues, have one player from each organization, each team to get into that AAA All-Star game. So it's always an exciting thing. They have a home run derby there as well. They do kind of the same not to the same scale as major leagues, but kind of emulate what the major leagues have done. And they have a fan fest and home run derby and all that stuff. And it's a really great time for players to go out there. And it's a nationally televised game on MLB Network. And it's great. It's a great time. I know we had it back in 1998 before I was here, but it's certainly a lot of work for the people putting it on. But it's a good time for players that get a chance to go. Very good. How can people connect with you personally and with the Tides? Anyone looking for information on our schedule can go to NorfolkTides.com, Facebook.com/NorfolkTides, or on Twitter and Instagram at NorfolkTides. And then if they wanted to follow us on Snapchat as well and our YouTube, just search Norfolk Tides and you should be able to find all of our information there. So we try and keep that stuff populated as much as possible. Like I said, we're home from 10 games in 9 days here. We're home through July 3rd, so we got lots of stuff going on here, and we'd love to have people come out. Yeah, I still think people always ask me what are the two most popular social media. I have to say Facebook and Twitter. I know Instagram is popular, but it still seems like Twitter is promoted more by the media, and Facebook is more by the common person. Yeah, it's crazy to see. Like Facebook has, for the longest time, we had, I think we're about 60,000 or so followers, and Twitter was lagging behind that, but Twitter's catching up daily, and Instagram is kind of, for photos and stuff, is kind of getting bigger as well. So those are it's Facebook's still number one, Twitter's a solid number two, and Instagram's creeping in there as number three. But there's plenty of places, and YouTube videos are great. just to watch the highlights of our games and stuff. We do a great job with that as well. So plenty of places to find out info on the Tide.
Ian, all the best. Take care of that cough, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
And our good friends at Buffalo Wild Wings, go by and see Paul and the wonderful staff for lunch and dinner. Great appetizers, great mozzarella sticks, salads, boneless traditional wings, burgers, all the games on TV. Watch the World Cup, wraps, sandwiches, tenders, a kids menu, dessert, great beverages, wings, beer, sports. Like them on Facebook. Download their app. Give them a call at 249-3999 for Buffalo Wild Wings next to Patrick Henry Mall in Newport News.
What tees you off? Presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
Now it's time for What Tees Me Off, like we just said. Joe Daniel, is it me, or are we filling up more at the gas station?
Filling up more, like more money?
Yeah, it just seems like we're filling up way more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about frequency. I guess depends on how much you travel. I recently just took a road trip, and yeah, $50 to fill up is crazy.
And a lot. Do that several times a week. I like a little lettuce, but too much lettuce, ugh.
It's acted like a garnish a little bit. Yeah. I prefer my lettuce a little bit more like a garnish.
Exactly. Telling someone you resigned from a board, but they keep on sending emails, and one of the reasons you resigned is you got too many emails in the first place.
Put them into spam.
Gossip does nobody anybody good.
Gossip is horrible. Just rumor. That's how rumors are spread. That's how friendships are broken. Yeah, never gossip. Oh, if you have an issue, always go up to that person. Hear it directly from them.
Exactly, face to face. People who are miserable at their job and take it out on others.
Yeah, I mean, if you're miserable in your job, I know you need to work. You got bills. I understand that, but at the same time, maybe try to find something that you actually can tolerate.
How about this? Grown adults who expect a gift on their birthday, it's not going to happen. We all wish you a happy birthday. Unless a family member wants to give you a birthday gift, I kind of reward you with gifts throughout the year. But then one person texted what his birthday gift was. Really? You're in your 60s and you're texting what your birthday gift was?
Yeah, I've never been into birthdays and presents and stuff like that. Again, I find it childish in a sense. I don't mean to be mean about it or anything like that. But yeah, I agree. I like giving gifts like you do. It just periodically.
Yeah.
You just like if you're thinking about the person, buy them a gift. You don't have to wait for the holiday. You don't have to wait for the birthday.
Exactly. You and I think so much alike. People you don't click with on any level, and you run into them out and about. That's kind of awkward sometimes.
It is very awkward, yeah, because you want to try to be cordial with them, be friendly, but at the same time, it's like we don't have anything in common. I don't know what to say.
When you walk into a store, we still have to do that, and the managers make zero effort to show you where something is.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is bad. And you have to go out of your way to try to find somebody. That's what tees me up, when you can't find help in a big store.
We mentioned employees. Nothing worse than disgruntled employees and a disgruntled person in a relationship, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
People who can't meet deadlines, Joe Daniel. You ask them several times, is it going to be ready? And they keep putting it off.
Yeah. No, hold true to your word. And what I try to tell my kids is I don't like dawdling. And so I try to tell them, it's like, hey, we're going somewhere. Go quickly. Get to A to B. If I ask you to do a task, finish that task as soon as you can, as quickly as possible. It just leaves you for more stuff, more enjoyable stuff afterwards. I mean, it's better for you, and the person gets their stuff done quicker than they expected. Everybody wins.
I'm sure this happened to most people. Texting a message, but you hit the wrong recipient.
Yes.
That can be really like, how are you, baby?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's innocent, but it's really awkward.
Oh, yeah. I've done that a couple times. I sent messages that were intended to my wife, and they ended up with my worship leader or something.
All right, there's nothing worse than loud people. I can't stand loudness.
Yes. Voices that carry. For some reason, they're not even trying. And I understand they're not trying to sound loud and obnoxious. You just kind of have that frequency in your voice that's just... it's a little much.
And they have to let people know we're here, too, as well. All right, we're in broadcasting. I've done this since I've been in college. But, you know, we don't try to pretend like we're doctors or dentists. When you have paid broadcasters that buy airtime, doesn't mean they're professional broadcasters. Yeah. And the show doesn't always flow. The commercial doesn't always flow because that's not what they do for a living.
Right. That's one of the difficulties that we have, because anybody can be on the radio if they can afford it, essentially. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be good on the radio. And we come across that pretty often, where people have an idea. It's a good idea for a radio show, and it sounds like they have it all planned out. But then once they get in front of that microphone, it just falls apart. And like you said, they're not entertaining. They're not fun to listen to. I mean, if you're not fun to listen to, you can't be on the air.
You got to have some energy, creativity to make it work, and it's not for everybody, folks, as well. That's what tees me off. And want to thank our great guests right here on Sports Scene each week, Saturday at 10 o'clock, right here on The Lighthouse. For more, go to gjbtv.com, hit the YouTube link for archive shows, Twitter at Greg Bick, that's GREGBIC. So for Joe Daniel, I'm Greg Pickaveris. Happy Saturday. We'll talk to you soon.